Hi, I'm Vickie Hall with Remax Masters Millennium, and I'm a real estate agent that specializes in senior real estate needs. And we're broadcasting here from the Mount Albert studio in Remax Masters Millennium's office in Greenwood Village. And during my work with seniors and their real estate needs, I rub shoulders with a lot of other senior experts, and we've got three of them here today. Two of them are from ViCare Solutions. It's Teri Crocker and Mike Homier. And we also have Mike.Rabon from Mortgage 300. And we are going to have Mike talk a little bit about trusts. So, Mike, when I look at the county records for a particular area, I can almost always tell who the seniors are because they have their house in a trust.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, why are they doing that? What's the advantages to that?
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. And, we've run into a number of our clients whose house is in a trust. Normally what you find is their house has been put into what's called a living trust or sometimes a revocable trust. So trusts are basically two different types. There's revocable trust, which says you can put your assets in this trust and then change your mind and get the assets back. So it gives you the flexibility. Or there's irrevocable trust, which means once the assets are put in that trust, they're gone. It's like giving the assets to a third person. They're no longer your assets. But a living trust can have a lot of advantages, and the chief advantage is being able to avoid probate. So probate's something that happens when you die. Your assets have to basically be put in front of a judge. If you have a will, then the will has to be put in front of a judge, and the judge determines is this will valid, and then we'll determine, yes, under terms of the will, here's who gets your assets. If you don't have a will, then the judge will look at your assets and determine according to state statute, thank you, who gets those, who will get your assets. So one of the advantages of a living trust is you are able to avoid probate, because probate can be expensive. It can be 2% of the amount of your assets. And also it can take time. It can take a couple of months or more. I've had clients that were caught up in probate for over 6 months. And so there's a distinct advantage to utilizing a living trust. Now, one of the things, because what we do is we specialize in assisting families where there's been a significant health issue and now mom or dad are looking at needing care in their home or assisted living or in a nursing home. We help those families figure out how they're going to pay for that care and then how to preserve their assets. Well, if they've transferred their assets into a living trust and they want to apply for Medicaid, Medicaid says, well, wait a minute, since you can revoke it and get all the assets back, then we're going to count those assets as your assets. So unfortunately, a lot of
Makes
people...
sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does. But a lot of people think that, well, no, I'm protected. I've transferred all my assets, and so I can qualify for Medicaid, and that's just not the case.
So is that a fatal mistake?
No, absolutely not. So
Okay.
what we'll do is if there is a living trust, then we can just undo the transfers, transfer the assets back to the husband and wife, and then we can do the planning in order to protect those assets either for the healthy spouse or for the children, depending on the situation. Now, the other trust, a irrevocable trust, those can be of benefit also, because if you transfer assets to a irrevocable trust and you have no interest in those assets once they're transferred, so there's no way that those assets can revert back to you, then Medicaid will not count those assets as your assets.
Wow.
Okay, so that's a
That would
great
shield
thing, and
A
they've
huge amount of assets and
and
dollars.
absolutely you can. Now, the thing you have to remember is when you transfer those assets, Medicaid will treat them as a gift. And Medicaid has this thing called the 5-year lookback. So when you apply for Medicaid, Medicaid will ask a question. Will ask a number of questions. They'll ask, what is your health like? Because you have to meet health requirements to qualify for Medicaid benefits. They'll ask, how much is your income? They'll look at your income, and then they'll ask, how much do you have in assets? But then the last question they ask is, have you made any gifts in the last 5 years? And if you have, Medicaid is going to impose a gift penalty, period. So if you transfer assets into a irrevocable trust, that's treated as a gift as far as Medicaid is concerned. So if it's within the 5 years, then there's going to be this gift penalty before you can qualify for Medicaid.
So if it is a irrevocable trust that helps with Medicaid, but do I have to go through probate?
No, you don't. So that's one of the advantages of using, either the revocable, the irrevocable, is that you will avoid having probate. So the assets are distributed under the terms of the trust. And the trust may say, upon my death, here's what happens to the assets.
Yeah, I think it sounds like if you're going to try to convince a family to do this planning, the reason to do it sooner is that 5-year look back.
Well, it really is.
Get it moved into the irrevocable trust now, so it's not impacted.
Now the thing that
later.
we caution families about is we don't want families taking all of their assets and putting them into a irrevocable trust, because now, what if they need those assets? Now, if they're assets that, let's say, for instance, you have a vacation home, up in Vail there's been a family vacation home, you bought it 40 years ago, for $50,000, and now it's worth $2 million. Certainly, that would be a good option for transferring that into a trust, getting it out of your estate, should you have some health requirements. But to take, what you have in savings and put it into a irrevocable trust where now you can't touch that, that would be an issue that we'd probably have to talk real hard to a family about doing.
How much they trust the children for not fighting over the assets or agreeing on using it for mom and dad's care?
Yeah, what if you need those assets and you just part of the reason Medicaid won't count them as your assets is, there's no strings attached when you transfer them. So certainly, I think a living trust is something that families can look at because they can be undone. Let me just mention one other thing, though, is with the living trust, as the trustee and the person that created the trust, you can undo it. But what happens if you become ill and now, let's say you have some form of dementia and you're not legally capable of undoing the trust. So you need to make sure that, it's a whole nother issue, powers of attorney, and we've talked about those before, but you need to make sure that, all of your legal documents are in place, because we never know when, it could happen to any of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we need all these different pieces of the puzzle put together. And one of the tools and pieces of the puzzle might be reverse mortgage that Mike can do. And Teri is excellent on helping you navigate the care journey, the different options, and give you choices that you didn't know that you had.
Exactly. You know, working with a family and learning their situation, and then trying to figure out what are their goals, and then how to make that happen. And again, as I've said before, and if we can't help them, I have a huge network of resources to help families. And maybe initially, mom is doing okay, but she needs some in-home meals. So I give referrals. I give lots of referrals out for things that people may need that I may not, or the ViCare team does not assist with. But it's doing the right thing for our clients.
Excellent.
Mike, you just said something that just made a light go on for me, and it's true in a lot of the customers I work with. Many times the heirs or the kids, the borrower is a senior, but so are the kids. I
Interesting.
deal with people that are dealing with somebody right now is 93, and the kids are in their mid-60s. So you got that whole chain that needs to be cared for in the prep for going forward. If they're an executor and they're in their 60s, they might have a life event that mom and dad didn't have, and now there's a hole in the chain. So think about the whole chain of command there. Maybe now the grandkids are part of that process.
Oh, absolutely. We actually work with a lot of families where it's one of the grandchildren that are helping, because unfortunately the son or daughter has passed away. Mom's in her late 80s, but their child's passed away, so it's the grandchild that now is having to help with the situation, and it's really it's really hard, because a lot of times I know we've worked with grandchildren that are in their early 20s, and that's a lot of stress, responsibility to put on someone who's in their early 20s to deal with this type of situation.
So we have some friends that are in their late 80s, and their 65-year-old daughter just died this past week.
That's terrible.
So it rolls down to the next generation to help out the elderly.
There you
We
go.
just don't know
Yep.
what's going to happen. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us about trusts. This is Teri and Mike from ViCare Solutions, and they can be reached.
303-907-0102. You can call me or text me, and I'll give you a call back and
help you navigate.
Yep, help you navigate.
Yep. And this is Mike.Rabon with
Mortgage 300.
Mortgage 300. Thank you.
Having a senior moment?
Yes, yes, I qualify for all of that. And I'm Vickie Hall with RE/MAX Masters Millennium, and we all specialize in services for seniors.
Mm-hmm.
There are other videos that we have also recorded. We welcome you to watch those also. Thank you.